Okay, new topic here, direct variation. So I'm going to make my boxes in my notebook here. And here's the directions for the first part, okay? You'll need a graph on this part, not on this part. Y varies directly with X, okay? Now here's what you have to do on the first problem. Y equals 6 when X equals 2. That's a fact they give you. Then using that fact, we have to find X when Y equals 12. Second problem, Y equals, I'll solve them here in a second. Y equals 5 when X equals negative 3. We have to find X when Y equals negative 1. Y equals 25 when X equals 15. We have to find Y when X equals 6, okay? These problems are easy, okay? Basically, direct varies directly means it's proportional, to make a long story short, okay? So you're going to put 6, that's Y, and then over 2, which is X. I like to always put my X on the bottom for story problem purposes. And Y is 12, is actually 12, so you're going to put 12 here. Now you can cross multiply and divide 2 times 12 divided by 6. You could also say, okay, 6 times 2 is 12, 2 times 2 is 4. So X equals 4. That's your answer. Okay, next one, Y, X, okay? So the Y is 5, the X is negative 3. My Y is negative 1. Followed by the X right there, okay? So we're finding the X. So I take negative 3 times negative 1 divided by 5, 0.6. You wanted that in fraction form. That's also a 3/5, okay? Because negative 3 times negative 1 is 3 divided by 5. You could just leave that as 3/5. I'm fine if you write 0.6. Okay, next problem. So 25 over 15, and then we have to find the Y now when the X is 6, so we put 6 in for X. Okay, 25 times 6 divided by 15 is 10, okay? So Y equals 10. Remember, YX, YX. Okay, now the next part's a graph thing. You'll need the graph paper. It says write and graph a direct variation equation that passes through each point. So the first one you get negative 3, negative 7. Now first we're going to write an equation. Well, to write an equation usually I go like this. Y equals blank x plus blank mb. Okay? So m's a slope, b's a y-intercept. But this is actually going to be pretty easy here. Okay? You only get 1 point. Well, there is a second point. Okay? Direct variation equations also have 0, 0. The graph is going to run through 0, 0. You don't see that, you kind of just have to know it. Well, then the slope, it's usually y minus y, x minus x, but what I'm going to simply do, since these are zeros, I'm just going to take my y, negative 7, divided by my x, negative 3. Okay? Now, we're talking about a slope here. Okay, you're talking about a slope. So first off, you have a negative over a negative, you make those positive. And listen, you want that fraction. That's how you graph the line. Okay, if you get a decimal, then your slope's going to be such a pain in the butt. So 7 over 3 is your slope. Okay, now another easy thing. If you have 0, 0, then the y-intercept 0. If you do the y equals m times x plus b, I guarantee you it's going to be 0. Okay? So you're allowed to eliminate that. Then the b is 0. Okay? This is the answer, y equals 7 over 3x. Okay? So m, b is 0. Okay? So your slope, y-intercept. Slope 7 over 3, the y-intercept 0. Okay? So there's two answers I need to see. I need to see this, but then I need to see the actual graph. So 0, then you go up 7, forward 3. There you have it. Okay? So I need to see the graph and I need to see the equation. That's the answer and that's the answer. Okay, got some more. Next one's hard to read on the document. Okay, negative 0.1 comma 50. Remember, I add a second coordinate because direct variation means I can use 0, 0. So y equals blank x plus blank m b. Okay, now again, normally m is y minus y, x minus x, but since x, one of the coordinates is 0, I'm just going to take my y divided by my x. So I divide 50 by negative 0.1, negative 500, okay? And the b is 0, okay? I guarantee you, when 0, 0 is part of the solution set, there it is. So y equals negative 500x, circle that, okay? Now to graph it, that's m, you don't have b, b is 0, okay? So m's the slope, m is negative 500 over 1, and then b is 0. So again, 0 right there. Now, how do you go negative 500? Well, easy. You make every one of these worth 100, okay? Every one of these can still be worth 1 going this way, but the up and down, we just make those worth hundreds. So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, forward 1, okay? That's all I need to see. Just that this is by hundreds and this is by ones, and you're good to go. So again, the graph is part of your answer, and that equation is part of your answer. Okay, next one, 9, negative 1, and if it's direct variation, 0, 0 is also part of that. Okay. So first, equation, y equals blank x plus blank m b. M's a slope, so y minus y, x minus x, but these are just zeros, so it's really just going to be negative 1 over 9. Now keep that as a fraction because we want the slope. We don't want decimals for the slope. And the b is 0. Okay? So you can write the 0 down, but it's good to ditch it. Y equals negative 1/9 x. There's your answer. Now to graph it, that's m, and then b is 0. If b is not there, it's 0. So negative 1/9 and 0. So I go 0. Then I go down 1, forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So again, putting that 0, 0 there makes everything better. You can do y minus y, x minus x. I'm just telling you, you're wasting time. You just put your y over the x. That's your slope. Your b is going to be 0. Okay, then negative 3, 14. MB. So first I have to write the equation. Remember, 0, 0 is also part of the solution. But I'm just going to go here. I'm not going to worry about that. I can just take my y and place it over the x. Now, 14 divided by 3 is a decimal, okay? I want it, I don't want the decimal because that's my slope. But one thing, when you have a negative over a negative, the negatives cancel. When you have a negative on the bottom, you need to move it to the top. Okay? And that's in simplest form. We want the improper fraction. Okay? So negative 14 over 3. And b is 0. Okay? So my answer is y equals negative 14 over 3 x. I don't need to put the plus 0. That's the equation. Okay, let's graph it. Slope, yn. So the m would be negative 14 over 3. 0 is a y-intercept. Now you're like, well, I can't go down 14. Yeah, you can if you make everyone worth 2's and everyone this way worth 1's. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 1, 2, 3. See, it's there. You might have to adjust your y scale. That's okay. There you have it. Okay. So again, you write out y equals blank x plus blank. The m can be found simply by putting your y over your x, because 0, 0 means I'm just left with this. Okay. And then the b, you can waste time with y equals m times x plus b, but if you have 0, 0, it's going to be 0. Okay. Then you write the equation and then graph it with your slope. Your b is going to be here on all these problems. Okay, then the last part. Make my tables here, my boxes. Okay, determine whether y varies directly with x. Okay. If it does, we have to write an equation. So if the answer is no, it's easy. I just write no and leave it. But if it does, I write. Okay, here's the first problem. xy. 1, 3, 5, negative 2, negative 8, 14. Here's how this can be done to tell if it's direct variation. We're taking the y divided by the x. So negative 2 divided by 1, negative 2. I should get negative 2 every time I divide the y by the x. Okay, I didn't, so no. So you write not direct variation. Easy enough, okay? Divide the y by the x. That's how you tell if it's direct variation. Divide your dependent by your independent variable. 9, 12, 15, 6, 8, 10. Okay. So I'm going to divide 6 by 9. I'm going to divide 8 by 12. I'm going to divide 10 by 15. I got the same thing every time, so that is direct variation, which you're not going to like because now you have to write an equation for it. Okay. So y equals blank x plus blank. And you just do your y equals mx plus b thing. Pick any 2 points. Okay. Okay, start with your higher x, so 15 to the bottom, 10 to the top. So y minus y, x minus x is what I'm using. 15 to the bottom, 10 to the top. Then 12 to the bottom, 8 to the top. So I end up with 2 over 3. Okay. Now I would prefer you keep that as a fraction. Okay. You can't reduce it, so it's going to be 2/3. Now the b, watch what I'm going to do, but this is really needless, but you can do it if you want. So your m is 2/3. Then I'll put 10 over y, 15 over x, or I can put 8 over y, 12 over x, or 6 over y, 9 over x. I'll do the 10 and the 15. So 2/3 times 15. Minus 10, minus 10, that's 0, okay? Direct variation means that b is always 0, okay? So you really don't need to do it, okay? So y equals 2/3 x is the answer to that problem, okay? xy 4, 6, 8, 1, 2, 3. Remember, we take the y divided by the x to determine if it's direct variation. So 1 divided by 4, nope. Yeah, 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. But then when I divide 2 by 6, I get something completely different. So that the ratios are not constant throughout the table. So it's not direct variation. Okay, and then the last one, I see a table, 23 over 55, 66, 24, 56, 67. Now there's a pattern, but it's not a direct variation pattern, okay? So 24 divided by 23, I get that. 56 divided by 55, that's different than what I got the first time, so again, that's not direct variation. That's how you check if it's direct variation. Now again, if it is, then you set up your y equals blank x plus blank, m and b. Pick 2 points, find your m, okay? Then I guarantee you the b is 0, so that means you don't really put it, okay? I mean, you can do the y equals m times x plus b. I bet it's going to be 0. Okay? Okay, in your assignment, 2 of these are direct variation, 2 of them are not. Okay. So let's recap kind of what we did here, because I kind of did a lot of off the wall stuff. First part's easy, we just made proportions. If they vary directly, then y over x equals y over x. So 6 over 2 equals 12 over question mark, cross multiply and divide. Then on the graphs, add a second point with your graph of 0, 0. Then write your y equals blank x plus blank equation. Now if you have 0, 0, you can really just put this negative 7 over the negative 3. Negative over negative cancels. If you have a negative on bottom, you move it to the top, and that's your slope. Okay? Then the b is always going to be 0. Okay? So once you have that equation established, you do your MB and then do the graph. But your B is going to be 0. Okay? And then you have the tables.